So the kickoff of Tiger's new TGL has certainly come with a mixed bag of feelings when it comes to fans. There's definitely some very promising parts, including a very strong ratings number, which was just released. Shockingly, seeing the debut of TGL getting even better ratings than any live event to date has seen on the CW, but it is definitely not all roses, with a lot of fans speaking out with certain things that they just did not like with TGL. And I'll be honest with you, I just can't necessarily disagree with those. So we're going to go into a couple of things that if the TGL is going to succeed, they're going to have to get right. But like I said, it is a mixed bag. There are some things that fans out there, and you guys have voiced your opinions, that you really liked, and maybe it's something that can be built upon. And speaking of building upon, there's also some really, at the moment, breaking news that could really shake things up with the TGL, including the potential expansion of the league into some new cities. And the one that has got everyone lit up is the rumor that there's a possibility of live golfers being invited into TGL. So we're going to dig in and just see how valid these rumors are. Bryson's name is being thrown around. There's quite a bit to dig into here. But first, of course, we've got to thank this week's sponsor, Titleist. And guys, I wonder, how does the best get better? Well, on January 25th, we're going to find out, because that is when we get to play the new Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X. And it may be hard to believe, but the official launch of the Pro V1 was in 2000, Mike. So we are coming up, this is the 25th
big anniversary. That's great.
Anniversary of the Pro V1. And if you're wondering what's new, Titleist R&D asked players what they wanted in the new Pro V1 and Pro V1X. And what they said was more spin on those scoring shots into the green. And the good news is both of the new models give players increase spin and provide more speed off the tee with more control on irons. You guys know I talk about it here. I've been playing the Pro V1 for just about my entire golf career, and it's the ball that I rely on for every shot in the bag. So go to Titleist.com, find out more really exciting things ahead there. So let's first talk, before we dive into, I want to say some of the valid and some of the maybe not as valid points that fans have made on both sides. I want you guys to weigh in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts were watching kind of the initial kickoff. But one thing that you can't argue with data, and the reality is, whether it be for curiosity or not, and I'll be interested to see as the more ratings come in for additional matches as these roll out every Tuesday, just how sustainable these ratings are. But you can't argue with the data. I'm going to give it to you guys right here. The ratings are in, and the initial first match drew a lot of viewership.
Yeah, what were the numbers? I mean, and I'm not surprised, because, like you said, a debut of something new is going to get more eyeballs.
Yep.
I think tonight's match has Tiger in it. I think that might even get even more eyeballs, because I think the people who might have missed TGL and keep hearing the rumblings about it are finally going to tune in tonight, and they're going to have a reason to because of Tiger.
And I would even say that there's a certain degree where you'd say that this had to succeed just because of the marketing that was put behind it.
Yeah, sure.
The amount of hype, you're talking about, it got a prime time slot on ESPN. As you said, you have the names. You've got Tiger there.
Yeah, these are big names on these teams.
Exactly.
Right.
So to a certain extent, it's going to draw out of curiosity, but once you get the people to watch, then after that, it's keeping them coming back.
Exactly.
And I think that's some of the stuff that we're going to go over here, that if the TGL can't tweak a few things that put some people off, myself included, they're going to lose that viewership. But they've got something big to build on. So the initial ratings, it averaged a 0.5 rating, which was average of 919,000 viewers on ESPN. A little bit more data. Viewership peaked at 1.1 million viewers in the second quarter hour from 9:15 to 9:30, and remained over the million mark all the way until 10:15. We're talking Eastern time, of course, here, which is pretty good. And now note, so the matches are actually going to be at 7 o'clock. This first match was later at 9. I would venture to guess that you're going to get even bigger ratings in that earlier time slot. But here's where we put this in context. This is their words, not mine. This is certainly not me trying to take a shot at Liv in any way. If you've watched the show here, we give, kind of equal on both sides. But again, we got to say the numbers. And what they said was, notably, TGL averaged more viewers in its debut telecast than Live Golf has ever drawn in 2 years on the CW. It also topped coverage of last week's PGA Tour Tournament of Champions and last month's showdown between Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler on the PGA Tour and Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka on Live. So again, this is not an intentional dig at Live. They're also saying it got better ratings than the Hawaiian PGA Tour event,
right,
and that kind of match event. So definitely promising. I think step one of the TGL being success was accomplished in that they got the people curiosity, get them tuning in to start.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was just reading all of the reports, comments, people online, Twitter, you name it, and there was a lot of positive feedback. I'm talking during. Like, I was doing this during the match, and the comments were lighting up. Like, this is great. Like, I can get used to this. This could be a great, addition to my weekday night.
Exactly.
Like, I have high hopes for it, and I feel like they got it right. But like you said, there was just a couple little quirks that I didn't like.
But the good news is I think that there's the ability to fine tune at least some of these. And you got to give a little bit of, a little breathing room knowing that it was the very first. So there's little things which we can, kind of, in a way, I wouldn't say brush off because they could put people off, but they're easy to fix. I think some people we saw and we're watching it kind of live on Twitter and all the different social media platforms, but some people were put off with the broadcast in general, the flow of it. Sometimes it was hard to hear who was talking. There was the music was
They're
1
talking about
second.
the music booing during shots or something or something.
Exactly. And it's this vibe that's being created to a certain extent where in a way, we've watched golf for so long the same way that we have a knee-jerk reaction where I'm like immediately cringe when someone yells in someone's backswing or as someone's about to putt. So it makes me wonder, what is this really? Is this something to be taken seriously or not? And that's one of the big gripes. First, though, let's talk about, as you mentioned, some of the positives. I think, and you guys, I want you to weigh in. Let's do a pros and cons list in the comments. What are a couple things you liked and a couple things you didn't like? Throw it in the comments. On the like side, what I kept seeing come up was the pace.
Yeah.
People loved how fast it moved, and a huge attribute to that was the shot clock.
Shot clock is everything.
And there are even plenty that I saw suggesting that the shot clock be adapted over to the actual PGA Tour. Now, obviously, a lot harder to implement because you're played over, people playing have different turns. It's over huge, vast areas. You can't just have one single shot clock like you do in every other sport. There's certain things that are just fit to an arena style event. But people love that shot clock.
The shot clock, I think, is what made this not boring. I think without it, I think you're going to lose a lot of viewers quick. But the pace, like you said, just kept going. Boom, next guy hits, and they're off to the green. So, I mean, I think they got that done well because I would never really got bored or tuned out.
Yeah.
You know?
And I totally agree. I think there's only one thing that comes back to my own personal gripe that I didn't love about the shot clock was that I felt at times it either hurt players' strategy or it made players, it was a little too rushed where players would just get up there and just hit the shot. And it kind of promoted this feeling to me that
they didn't care.
They didn't care that much. So the shot clock, like I said, was a good one. I think another thing that goes in the good column was that the technology was fascinating. I heard this over and over. People are saying that it really did live up to the hype. Seeing that green move, seeing the way that the screen was this massive screen, the way that interacted, the fact that you had the players mic'd up. Now that could go in both kind of pro and negative column. There were some people who said we weren't hearing enough from the players, or it was hard to hear them with the music blaring. But overall, I think that the thing that they can is no small feat of accomplishment to have that much technology, have it all fire off and work that day and really be able to follow it. Yeah.
It was impressive that nothing broke down, a shot did not register, all the things that people were saying may happen.
Right.
I think people were a little turned off by maybe the delay in the shot hitting the screen and then maybe coming up with a more creative way to cut that sort of or somehow. But that was one of the things that I read that people were not into.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
Well, speaking of which, stay tuned because we're going to get a first-hand experience of this. We are headed down to next week's match, and we're going to see it in person and really be able to give you guys some more feedback on all that. We'll see how much of these kinks change. But let's dive into the crust of this, of what fans have really called out as being the main problems, and are these problems fixable? And the first one that I heard this a little bit, but before I even heard others kind of saying it on Twitter, my kind of way to go about this was I wanted to sit, watch the event, absorb it, make my own conclusions out of it, and then go and see what others were saying. So, I'm sitting on the couch. I was messaging you. We were kind of in our Discord group. We were hitting each other, and then I also, was just bounces off my wife. She's sitting there watching with me, and the number one thing that just kept me from getting super engaged with it was a feeling of a lack of true competition, right? And at the end of the day, if the TGL is going to be built on this team environment, and if you're going to want to get fans to become invested in their team and really root for them, it's got to be where we feel like players are out there playing to win. And all those guys, I love watching them on tour. They're all incredible athletes. They're all incredibly talented. But I had, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you felt otherwise, let me know in the comments. This is an open conversation, but my feeling was that they just were not taking it super seriously. And at the end of the day, there's a place for exhibition. There no doubt is.
Yes, no doubt.
You think about even something like, you take an all-star game in basketball, the Pro Bowl in football, hockey's all-star game. It's fun to watch all the best players playing together, but it's a fun environment. It's there. It's there. Whatever. Nobody's going to go out and rock a hat for the AFC. Like, I'm a big AFC guy. right. Like, no.
Yep.
It's that I'm a Giants fan. I'm a whatever it may be, and that fandom comes with that desire to win, that competition. And I think this has been, honestly, one of the biggest problems and why we've seen this fall off, which we've reported here on the podcast with looking at the ratings with the match and things like that. It gets to a point that there is a place to view and people's personalities, to take some of the stars that we like watching in other leagues, the PGA Tour or LIV, and then get to know them better by having them mic'd up. But if we're going to make this a true league that fans are going to get deeply invested in, that fans are going to pay, I don't know if you saw some of the astronomical prices for tickets. I saw tickets going as high as $850 to these events. If fans are going to do that, it's got to be that they're invested in the competition. And it could be a vibe thing, it could be whatever, but to me, it just never felt like, it felt like just buddies out there just hitting it in the sim. It didn't feel like something was on the line. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I also feel like it was the first one. I think there might have been some nerves. A lot of those guys did talk about it being new, and they were nervous. I think maybe they were more treating it like hit and giggle to feel better about it a little bit. I know these guys have played in Ryder Cups and things like that with massive amount of pressure. But they even said it in the interviews, like, this is a little nervous, like, hitting to a screen. Like, I'm sure they had their own kind of, reservations about, is this going to work? Is this going to be cool? You know what I mean? Is this going to be a great venture? But I agree that the competition needs to come in, but to some extent, the looseness of it, I think, is what sets the vibe for this. I think your stuffiness is for Bryce and Rory coming down 18 at Pinehurst for the U.S. Open. Pressure. I feel like this is the place for it. I don't know. Maybe I disagree a little bit.
There's got to be a middle ground here. And I think one middle ground that you can look to, and notably, in recent years, it's gotten a little bit overboard from a fan side. And this is not, I don't want it to go push the needle that far. But I look to something like the waste management.
Okay.
Where you've got an arena, you've got fans, you've got that stuff. And you have moments where players will rile up the crowd, ask them to get loud. But there's something different that happens. At the end of the day, it's still a tour event. There's money on the line. There's this FedEx Cup point on the line. And when they're about to hit those shots, players lock in. And you can just see they're in a different place mentally. Yeah. Right? So No. Do I want this to become an arena where beer is being thrown on the thing? Absolutely not. But is there a way that, like the Ryder Cup, that the crowd has the moments of getting riled, but then they're quiet for the shot and everyone's taking it a little bit more seriously? This felt like, even from a fan standpoint, people are talking through the shots. It just felt like a bar.
Right.
Right? But I'm saying there's got to be a way that we can witness. I even saw,
You're
for
describing
example,
a tennis match. Tennis is quiet until there's a point and then people erupt.
or almost anything like that.
No, but I'm saying like in a football game, baseball game, there's always chatter. It's loud there.
Right.
And that's what we heard in the background, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Like a bar.
Yeah, no doubt. There can be a little bit of the chatter. I think it's more so whether it be tennis or golf. There's a certain degree where you're not yelling in someone's back.
Right.
We did see
That too, yeah.
a bit of. But what I'm saying is there's got to be some common ground. I look to even, for example, Matt Fitzpatrick. You know, he gets up there, he hit a couple of really bad approach shots and whatever it may be, and the first thing he does, he kind of misses it, and it's kind of a smirk.
Yeah.
And the team is like,
Right.
and they're just kind of laughing it
Yeah.
off. Now, you could say part of that was that Matt was out of his own element because the shot clock or feeling rushed or whatever it may be, but there just wasn't the sense on the players' faces like it mattered. And I know, at no degree do I want to actively see guys hanging their head, but in the same token, I want to see you care. I want to see that it is something
I can see that.
you are invested in, and winning matters.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm a huge fan of, I watch like the NCAA tournament. I watch the U.S. Amateur. It's so tangible what a win there would mean to them. And it just made me wonder, does a win mean anything to these guys? Because if it doesn't, why is it going to matter to the fans?
Yeah, it's true.
If it don't matter to you, it's never going to matter to the fans.
Yeah, you're right.
So
Right.
I think it can be something as simple as, the teams gelling more. They're just being just that component of like, this matters, like however it may be. Now, one thing you could say, how do you get players of that caliber invested in something like this? There is a purse. At the end of the day, there's a payout which would equate to about $2.5 million for each player on the winning team of the overall event. That really is a drop in a bucket for them, though.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if you incentivize them with higher payouts to win each match. I don't know if there's a way to do that. And like I said, it's one person's opinion. I may be off the mark here. That's why I want you guys to let me know in the comments. But I got to think there's some people out there who share that opinion with me, that it just didn't feel like it felt like an exhibition, not a competition.
Yeah, I just wonder if they were out of their element. I mean, remember, these guys are freaks of nature. We always talk about it, and they're in the same routine always out on the golf course. This changed it for them. The shot clock, rushing them, dropping a ball and hitting, and they're on synthetic turf. But they are good golfers. They should be able to execute those shots. But I feel like when they weren't executing them, that's when they were shrugging it off, like, giving the attitude, like, oh, this is so different. Like, I'm just getting used to this. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I got when, Matt Fitzpatrick bladed a wedge by the hole or something. They just kind of, you're right. They shrugged it off.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why it's so hard to quantify and put any with tangible words to like what an emotion someone's experiencing. But you just can't tell me that the same emotions that were experienced there when they lost a hole was the same thing that someone experiences when they lose a hole in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Or, coming down the stretch in a PGA Tour event and they're one or two strokes off the lead and they either make a big shot or they miss a big shot. There's no denying, you can see that human emotion, that this means something to them. I felt very opposite with this. I felt like it was players having a good time with their buddies, and no different than you and I, grabbing some drinks and hitting some balls in the sim.
And that's the product they were probably trying to deliver, but it might not be the right message.
I think there's a message in between where they can still be fun, get to know people, but when it comes game time, lock in.
Yeah.
Lock in. Take moments where you pull a player aside and interview them, whatever it may be, but allow players the time to lock in and play and step aside and then let them really do what they do best.
And how about stopping or not giving 5-foot gimmies and stuff like that? You're talking
about the final concession?
Yeah, there were some questionable concessions out there.
Well, and I get it. There's a certain pressure on these guys to make it fun, I'm sure.
Yep.
But even Ricky, the way it kind of ended it, and hear him saying like, "Hey, the audience doesn't know I conceded that." Yeah, by then the match was so far gone, they got so blown out. But then he wanted to have fun and just throw the flag stick down and make it look like okay. But again, to me, that's not something that would be done in a concession at a Ryder Cup event.
Right.
And would I be considered delusional to think this is ever going to be the Ryder Cup? Maybe. But on the same token, if we're talking about, as so many people said, tomorrow's golf league, the future, where it's headed, I just don't think you can sustain the attention and drive true fandom and have people who are going to be out there sporting your gear and your merch and all that stuff and be behind you the way that, people live and die their football team or their baseball team. It's not going to happen until it's true competition and it shows that it matters.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
A couple other things that were just kind of said that I think are fine-tuned tweaks that can be definitely done. The one that I saw, and I've seen other people say the same, was that we've got this incredible technology. We've got this, we're getting all this ball data, and this might be just the nerd in me who just kind of loves seeing these stats, but you're getting it all. Why not show it all? And we would get glimpses sometimes like ball speed and stuff like that. But I think there's one thing the TGL can offer that we don't necessarily get on the PGA Tour.
Your sim stats.
Right. It's like, sure, we get TrackMan and shot data and stuff like that, shot link, all that stuff on the PGA Tour. But you've got guys in one spot. I would say here, let's get slow motion cameras on them. Let's get the 360 analyzation of their swing. Let's get all that swing data, because that to me is very interesting. Here, we're still, at the end of the day, it's the world's best golfers. And all of us golfers, we always want to learn from what they're doing.
Right.
Like,
you want to see spin numbers out there?
I want to see spin numbers. I want to see apex numbers. I want to see all that.
All the stuff the sim gives you.
That's why we're there. We're running, this is why we love golf simulators. It's for all that information.
That's a good call.
Show
right
it
there.
on every shot. And it might be that we'll see when we're down there next week. It might be that the fans see it in person. But as far as the broadcast go, there were some shots I got it and some I didn't. I want that. I want all that information. Give that to me. It's there already. That's an easy tweak. The last one that I saw kind of popping up over and over again, and this might have just been because it was the first event, a lot of people felt like it was too hyped up. I saw this one quote. One person said, and they call Live a circus? Seriously? One person said, another person said, I had to turn it off after the second. Flashy just for the sake of being flashy. And what came back a lot was like the whole DJ Khaled huge hype vibe was just too much. Some people said I think it was 17 minutes of this long intro before they got into the golf. Let's wait and see on that. It might be just that it was the first one and they really wanted to bring those hype vibes. But to a certain extent, a lot of people felt it was also a little bit too over the top, and it did put some people off. So again, it just separates. Is this a hit and giggle, use Tiger's words, exhibition to just have a little bit of fun on Tuesday nights? And if so, fine. To me, it's still, hey, it's bonus golf. I wasn't getting golf on Tuesday nights before. Now I have it. If it is, so be it. I just think that's going to hurt the longevity. Otherwise, I'm fine. Player introductions, no different than you would get before an NBA event. But once we're in competition, find a way to let these guys lock in and show me they care. That's going to be my number one thing there.
Yeah, it's funny. I always flash back to the old Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game show. When it got serious, they played that really serious music and the lights went down. Right. Just lock people in, but with a little bit of the fun.
Listen, that's a great suggestion. I don't have any problem with that. I saw a lot of times in the broadcast, at least the blaring music would just kind of keep continuing, and then the guy maybe do that right before he takes a shot. It gets quiet, and they're
yes,
and then it's just it's focused on him. Build that drama.
Build the drama,
or just allow that drama to happen because golf has so much of it.
Let me ask you a quick question before you move on, though. Tonight, 7 p.m. the match, Tiger's first round. Do you think TGL takes a lot of the stuff they heard out there and they tweak it for tonight, or you think they're going to continue to just keep running with their game plan?
I think the broadcast will get better each time. I think that's a nature of it because they'll learn things like the crowd was too loud here, whatever. There's a lot of people working on that. But I just don't know about this competition thing. I'm interested to see if they go out there and is it just a victory lap for Tiger? Is Tiger just having fun with it and whatever? And like I said, we enjoyed that in the match. We hear Tiger's banter. Or are we going to see why we loved Tiger for so long? Competition.
Yeah.
And I think Tiger's the one who could bring that because at the end of the day, we've always heard about the competitive spirit of Tiger. and how he could be playing ping pong against you. He's not going to let you win.
Right.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see them throwing the hammer. I want to see the team sweating.
Yes.
Sweat.
Yeah, sweat.
Right?
We want sweat.
We want that. And then we're going to be right there behind you as fans.
No doubt about
But
that.
until we get the sweat, the blood, sweat, and tears, fans are just going to be half checked out.
It's true.
That's my opinion. Anyway, I really want to talk though about this expansion and the possible inclusion of live.
Yeah, I
players
gotta
and
hear
what
about
that might
this.
change for the dynamic. So let's do a brief word from our sponsors and get right back into that.
Hey guys, FootJoy is unquestioned the leader in performance golf outerwear, and with their Thermo Series lineup, I mean, they've got you covered with all different varieties. I mean, real golfers, we make every day playable. We don't care. We will play in the cold. In fact, some guys in our Discord server the other day, one guy went out and played locally right here. I mean, it was like 24 degrees.
There's no snow on the ground.
There's no
baby.
snow on the
You
ground.
go.
You go, and when you go do that, you need to stay warm, obviously. So whether it's the Thermo Series pullover hoodie or the hybrid jacket, I mean, I can go on and on. They have so many different options, so many different colors and styles. You got to check them all out for yourself. They are the warmest things out, and learn how to layer up the right way. Go to footjoy.com, find the whole Thermo Series jacket. It helps you play in any condition, anytime, anywhere.
All right, so let's talk about this because this is just hitting right now. This kind of the idea, and I'll tell you where it comes from, of the expansion of the league, and then even including live golfers. And I think it was golf.com, or someone had done a piece of saying like the one man that the TGL needs right now, and it was Bryson. And it goes back to what you've said here on the podcast before, is like, he's just the hottest personality in golf right now, especially when you consider like YouTube and what he's done and where he is, and how potentially, I could see, imagine the electricity of seeing Bryson with his power hitting into that screen, and we get those numbers, and we're seeing ball speed and all those types of things. Absolutely. But kind of going back, there's two main points here. One would be the expansion of the league. So it would go beyond just where it is in Florida. We're talking about multiple arenas, and we're moving around from week to week.
Yep.
This would also help for fans on the ground being able to
So
experience
this is a location thing, not a team thing.
This would be a location thing. And then the second thing would be the invitation of live players.
Which
So-
would create a team expansion at that point. If it
Absolutely,
happened.
but it also would be a major shakeup because the TGL is still, working hand in hand with the PGA Tour. And as it stands right now, we saw guys who were part of the TGL and then left TGL when they was announced that they were going to live. Case in point, John Rahm.
Right.
Remember, John Rahm
Yeah.
was listed as one of the TGL guys in the beginning. So where this comes from, a big part, I'll read the quote in just a second, but just some very keen observers noticing a lot of NFL and other major team owners in attendance for the first event, and thinking that a lot of them may want to now take on some investment, bringing a location to where they are at. So here's what was said. They said, TGL Golf League has actively explored expansion opportunities for new venues in Las Vegas, Scottsdale, and Southern California. They also have a list of potential targets from Live Golf. Co-founder Mike McCarley told the Sports Business Journal, the league could also potentially expand to other sports in the next 5 years, and some NFL, NBA owners attended night one. Lots to unpack there.
That's a lot right there.
I get it. And we've done this before on the podcast. We talk about where certain things come from. Sometimes sources are credible. Other times it just falls through. But here, just knowing that there's the idea floating around that the TGL has a list of targets in Live makes me wonder a couple things. Like, is that list the target list for when the deal happens? Does that mean something we don't know? Like, the deal's going to happen, and as soon as it does, bang, TGL expands by 3-4 new teams, and they bring in a bunch of live golfers. Is this the kind of the stepping stone that's needed to slowly start bringing these two leagues together? They start playing together on Tuesday nights. We get more used to seeing PGA Tour and TGL guys playing, and then this is the kind of the bridge. It could be a very interesting bridge that gaps those two. But even there's other stuff here, like expansion into other sports. Very interestingly, like, I think golf was the one that had to have something like this because it's one of the only sports that you can't put grandstands around in the same way. You can't surround it in an arena the way you can in pretty much every other sport. So like this becomes the first way to play golf in an arena, but we see simulation and technology advancing in ways that, who knows, maybe other sports could. I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know exactly how. But I see that there There are simulators out there, residential simulators, where you kick a soccer ball into a hole.
Yep.
You hit baseballs, throw it like you're hitting against a major league pitcher, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are all things that you don't necessarily need simulation for
Right.
in order to create an arena out of it. So that one, if you guys have better ideas than me, let me know in the comments what that might be. But I think the two key components here would be, if the league's going to be successful, starting to expand it into other cities would allow fans to come in and witness it. And secondarily would be, if the live golfers are included, it could very well be, a spot where we all come together, whether you watch live or you watch the PGA Tour, we all come together and watch one thing on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think the live, if that is true, if the live players end up in the TGL, I think that would be outside of a deal. I think the deal is to just how you bring the two green grass tours together, right? And I think like the match was a stepping stone. This could be a stepping stone, but they're still going to just always try to figure out the competing in the majors by qualification is another another way to do it. But again, I personally think there's no way Live and PGA Tour are ever going to come together. I think they're going to operate separately
the deal
forever.
Will never happen?
I personally feel it'll never happen, and it's these little sprinkles in between. TGL, all this unique stuff.
If the deal doesn't happen, TGL doesn't happen with them coming together.
I don't know. I'm thinking,
As
why
of
not?
Right now, it can't. It would be violating.
But wasn't the
effectively-
match violating anything? Doesn't the PGA Tour has nothing to do with the match?
No, nothing to do with the
But
match.
their rights
Other
are-
than there was always the great grievance that, like, because you're PGA Tour players, they had to pay some sort of licensing fee.
Mm-hmm.
But the PGA Tour doesn't control the match in any way. The way, like, the PGA Tour has control over, let's say, they don't have control over any of the majors. They have control over their events, where you're immediately suspended from their events if you're, as of right now, until
Right.
live. But similarly, just like we saw, like guys like John Rahm immediately removing from
Right.
TGL. TGL is still within that PGA Tour enterprises. So they would kind of be violating, in a certain way, I'm no lawyer, but violating their own rules by allowing someone to play in the TGL but not in the PGA Tour. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
If you let me play there, how can you not let me play here?
Okay.
You know?
I mean, I guess you have to have a PGA Tour card to play in TGL.
Yeah, I mean, they're part of the PGA Tour. Every member
be a
in
PGA
TGL
Tour
is a
member.
PGA Tour member.
Right. Currently, right now.
Right.
And if they
Every-
snuck in Bryson, there would be a violation.
According to their
Yep.
own
Okay.
suspension rules, where you're suspended
Suspended
from the
from the
PGA Tour.
Yeah.
So there's
Got
a
it.
lot that could be changed. We're going to let see this unfold. We got another big match tonight, and then we will be at the match after that. We're going to kind of keep going, because I'm going to tell you this. I am rooting for the league. I
Same,
want
yeah.
to see the TGL succeed, because I think it's a fantastic opportunity to experience golf in a new way. I think indoor golf only has upside potential, whether it be from the tour level or all the way down to just us playing amateur golfers who just enjoy another way to play the game outside of green grass golf. I would love to see it succeed, but I think, for my own personal take on it, the real thing that's hanging in the balance is, it's got to be a way that we feel like this is true competition. The players are truly invested. And if they're invested, the fans will follow. So let us know your own thoughts. Subscribe wherever you get your comments. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast, not where you get your comments.
Yeah, don't do that.
And then we will see you in the next one.